Okay, we got to talk about Amazon. So Amazon has a group of people that are trying to unionize with it, and they are led by one Chris Smalls. Now, Chris Smalls, during COVID, actually got fired from Amazon, and he claimed that he was wrongfully terminated from Amazon, and then started to help organize a union for Amazon. One of the Amazon warehouses, he did successfully get people to agree to try to unionize. So there is some headway there. Now, he's making waves again right now in the news because of the recent Met Gala. And here, we're going to go ahead and take a look at that video right now. I love when audio is unavailable. That's so cool. Oh, there just isn't audio on this. That's weird. During the Met Gala carpet, Jeff Bezos sent police to arrest Amazon labor union organizer Chris Smalls. So, the framing of this is a bit awkward. I'll tell you why here in a minute. But yeah, here he is, getting arrested, getting kicked out of the Met Gala right now. Now, for those of you who don't know about the Met Gala red carpet experience shit, it apparently cost like $100,000 fucking dollars to get in there. It is in every way, shape, and form just a homage to fucking decadence. The fact that I could pay off the debts for myself and just a fuck ton of people I know with the amount of money that it takes to buy a single ticket to go to an event where you are gaining nothing from it other than to just exist there? Yeah, Jasmine has it right. It's just vanity. It's just vanity. It is one of the stupidest concoctions of capitalism that we possibly could have. Here's this stupid exclusive event that requires you to be a multimillionaire in order to afford going, all so that you can have, 3 hours of entertainment and mingling with other people who are already rich? Like, it's functionally a way for people who are rich to get connected with other people who are rich so that they can go do other stupid rich people projects. Jet says, I think last year Vosh was talking about it like an art thing or something. Again, none of this, nothing in the world that does not have like a massive benefit to society and is permanent should be $100,000. I'm sorry. There is no one thing or event that should be that per person at all. Now, the video says that Jeff Bezos called on him to get arrested, which would lead you to believe that Jeff Bezos has a personal grudge against this one Amazon worker who, I promise you, he forgot existed the minute he got fired and only might remember because of the unionization thing, and even then might only remember it in passing. That's why we need to unionize, guys. That's actually the reason we need to unionize, so that we can continue to be thorns in the sides of multi-billionaires. Because only when we do that, only when enough of us are doing that, will we force them to remember that, oh, right, our businesses only function because we are there, not you. If the CEO doesn't show up for 3 months to a business, the business still runs. If the workers stop showing up for 3 weeks, everything fucking burns. That said, the framing of this that, and it's from Antifa Ultras, so of course the framing of it is going to be what it is. The framing of this that Jeff Bezos called the police to arrest him is a bit interesting to me, because I don't know if that's really what happened. So Huffington Post covered this as well, and in their version of events, it's a little bit different. It says New York police arrested labor leader Chris Smalls on Monday outside the Met Gala during protests, targeting the event's main sponsor and Amazon's billionaire founder, Jeff Bezos. Based as fuck. That's based as fuck. I'm sorry. I think Amazon, as a company, makes hand over foot over and above what its workers make. I made a video that's going out on the secondary channel about profit and how the concept of profit is actually stealing from workers, because profit is the surplus money that is generated from labor. And if we're gonna have libertarians and right-wing people tell us every single day, all the time, that taxes are theft because they're taking surplus money you made and then using that for some reason or another, I'm just going to say profit is too, because it's the exact same thing. It is skimming an amount, arbitrary or greedily, off of the top of laborers' paychecks in order to enrich the wallets of the CEOs who do not put in the same amount of work, in fact, do not put in any work in many cases, or the owners who do not put in any work at all. I'm a firm believer in the once you hit $1 billion, you should now be taxed at 100% for everything after that point. And then you should get a plaque that says, "Congratulations, you won capitalism." That's not an original joke. I've heard that joke at least 3 separate times on 3 separate channels. So I'm going to copy it too. Just says, can it really be considered an arc, though? I think it's just special interest at this point. Hold on. What are we talking about? Are we talking about the, Are we talking about the Vosh arc where he started getting really obsessed with clothes and now it's just a special interest for him? Because that is what happened. You win, actually based take. I wonder what endgame would look like. Right, you hit max level in the corporate sphere, and now you get to endgame. Welcome to Epstein Island. Like, that's what it is, right? Like, right now, if you become a multi-billionaire, the end game for you is being able to be invited into one of the really cool big child predator clubs. That's what endgame looks for you in the MMORPG of life when you hit $1 billion. Or you're Elon Musk and you send a bunch of texts and emails to Epstein desperately pleading to actually get involved in the pedophile island because you want to go for the really cool pizza parties, and then you get kicked out because you're too much of a creep. And I said, oh, not the movie Endgame. Jessica says, while it's not Amazon, I did the math, and based on a comfortable cost of living in Reading, Washington, the amount Chris Cox sold in February could cover the pay of 300 families of 4. Jesus Christ. Fuck Hasbro. I wish Wizards of the Coast could buy themselves out from under Hasbro, but they make too much money for Hasbro to allow that to happen. Anyway, video from multiple angles shows a large group of police tackling 37-year-old Smalls after he tried to hop over a barricade to protest Bezos, who fired him after he organized an Amazon worker strike in 2020. Smalls was previously seen holding a sign that said Amazon still won't negotiate a contract with the JFK 8 Staten Island warehouse he worked at. That is the warehouse that was willing to unionize, from my understanding. Police confirmed to Huffington Post on Tuesday morning they're holding Smalls in the Central Park precinct on charges that include resisting arrest, trespassing, and disorderly conduct. All right, cool. Can I make a take real quick? This is an ice cold take, I promise you, but resisting arrest is one of the stupidest fucking charges on the planet. Okay? Let me explain. A human's natural aptitude is to be free. Our natural want is to have volition over our own lives. It's the thing that everybody craves to some degree. It is the thing that corporate propaganda has to be used to argue that we don't actually crave. Freedom through servitude and all that stupid shit. Yeah, German prisons are a good example of what I'm getting into, Dorito. Because it is a human being's natural want to try to be free, resisting arrests makes no sense as a charge. Because resisting arrest should be the thing that is considered default. Most normal people, when presented with a scenario where they could be free or could be restrained, will pick being free. So the concept of us being able to trump up charges in any way, shape, and form because you did the thing that you naturally wanted to do that normally doesn't fucking harm anybody. No. No. Especially when somebody's innocent. Like, can you imagine? And I'm sure this has happened a number of times. I just haven't looked it up. But can you imagine being a person who is completely innocent? But you know the U.S. court system is not the greatest. You know that we have a non-zero chance of getting you in trouble for shit that you didn't fucking do. And so you, as a completely innocent person, resist arrest. And then you get to the jail cell, you find out later that, yeah, you were innocent of all of the shit, and then you still stay in the jail cell because you've got a charge for resisting arrest. Like, it's so stupid. It's dumb. It's dumb. If you already have a reason to arrest them, then the crime they committed there is the crime you should be hitting them for, not wanting to be free. Wanting to be free is not a fucking crime. But in America and in a lot of places that are very, very pro-police force, it is a crime. Wanting to be free is a crime. The resisting arrest thing is effectively saying wanting to be free is a crime. It is so stupid. It is nightmarishly stupid. Anyway. Disorderly conduct, trespassing. Pro-worker members of the public have called for police to release Smalls, who's continued to lead the labor movement on the global stage since leaving Amazon. Okay, so before we get any further, did it show what he did? Okay, I don't know if it's going to actually talk about what he did, because what what he did was not just get arrested by Bezos. He held up a sign, and then he jumped the dividing line for the gala, right? He jumped the dividing line of the gala. He like ran over to an SUV and then ran back to the dividing line, jumped over it. That's where he got the trespassing charge, because he deliberately jumped over that. So I understand trying to hit him with the trespassing charge, but when you listen to what he says here, it makes perfect sense as to why. On Sunday, labor rights demonstrators projected a video onto Bezos' Manhattan penthouse featuring Smalls. In the video, the union organizer criticized Amazon for its ties to federal immigration enforcement and its alleged investments in projects that target Palestinians in Gaza. Yikes. Smalls spent several days in an Israeli prison last year for trying to deliver humanitarian aid to the Gaza Freedom Flotilla. Said, now you have the Met Gala, where you're going to be surrounded by all of these elites and billionaires and A-listers. When you have poverty right outside in the streets, we have to remind ourselves that it's more of us than it is of them. And when we fight back, every time, we win. So I understand hitting him on the trespassing charge, because in all technicality, based on how our legal system works, that is what happened. I also think his point is very, very clear. I think his point is incredibly crystal clear. Watching a bunch of millionaires and billionaires and their sycophants celebrating how rich they are. That's all it is. They're just celebrating how rich they are. This is no more, no less. It is just them whacking each other off, while there are people who are dying in the streets cold, literally feet away from them, is stupid. It makes no sense. Why would you spend $100,000 to go to a gala that isn't fucking worth that much? I promise you. Why would you spend that much when, for the money that it costed you to go to that gala for a handful of hours, that could have been the grocery bills for thousands of families that live paycheck to paycheck right now? Profit is theft. I'm sorry. There is an amount of profit that I believe is entitled to owners and CEOs because of their creating of jobs, whatever. But it's really weird to me that without unions, we do not have any way to negotiate those profits at all. We have no way to negotiate how much of those profits that, the workers deserve there. I was very happy when Twitch finally decided that it wanted to start giving more creators a 60-40 cut of the revenue that is donated by their fans, instead of it being a 50-50 cut. I was thrilled that Jeff Bezos was willing to give me 10% more money. 10. That's pennies on the dollar, but it's a non-zero amount. I feel as though that was only done because competition has sprung up to Twitch. But there is no competition. There's no competition to Amazon proper. There's none. Just like there's not really a lot of competition to Walmart proper, really. Like, you have Kroger, but Kroger doesn't offer everything Walmart does. Even the giant ones don't. You've got Target, but Target is just more expensive Walmart with less items, and some of them are more bougie. And then you have Publix if you're in the Southwest or Southeast, but like, that's not really a Walmart competitor. They don't even consider themselves a Walmart competitor. Walmart, because it is an omniplex when it comes down, and Amazon, because it is an omniplex based on every single facet that it is able to consume, there is not true and good competition for them that really matters. Dorito says, are you saying monopolies are bad and that America should probably do something about monopolies? Like, make a law? Yeah, monopolies are bad. So, you have two options when you have a monopoly. Option one is get your politicians to be good little boys and girls and give the FDR stick to beat every single monopoly to death until it stops being a monopoly. That's not happening. And I know that's not happening because, we already have anti-monopoly laws that we just don't do anything with because we already went through this once upon a time. So what's your other option? What other option do we have access to? Oh, right, unions. Unions are the other option. Because it turns out that once you have a monopoly, the only way to have power within that monopoly is to collect around it. Consider this. If I'm a billionaire, I can afford a security team. That security team can protect me from you, but you can't afford a security team, so you can't protect yourself from them. Tales of Atonement, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. Dorito says there are more options. You're right, Luigi. There are options. But we're not going to advocate for those options here on this channel, on YouTube or Twitch, after Vice Rhino got banned. Not today. We're not doing that. So, your other option is unionize. Because if you have enough collective voices together, not to fucking protest, but to actually hit people in their wallets where it fucking hurts, you can get a lot of stuff done. It turns out if all the Amazon warehouses shut down for a week, Jeff Bezos would lose a fuck ton of money. Axel says, oh, did he get banned because he said redacted? Yep, Vice Rhino got banned. Okay, so Vice Rhino has been banned for 30 days from Twitch because of an edgy joke that was made on Twitch. So, I'm saying that to you now so that if you're expecting episodes of The Watering Hole to be on Twitch in the coming month, they will not be on Twitch. Because for me to be co-host of Watering Hole, I cannot be streaming to Twitch on those days. So expect that my Twitch stream will end when I start doing things with Rhino, and my YouTube stream will continue for those days. Every other stream will work identically to how it normally does. But I'm going to have to end my Twitch stream when we start, and you will be left with just my YouTube vertical stream. And I would suggest at that point to definitely pay as much attention as you can to the Watering Hole channel itself, since that is his channel. Water the YouTube Wednesday? Yep. Yep. And the joke he said was... And, like, I don't really care if it's the cholesterol that gets him first, but goddamn, somebody should... Oh, we're back. Man, you know, I probably shouldn't actually, say those things. Here. Axo says, it's kind of just Vosh all over again. Is he still banned? Vosh isn't banned on Twitch anymore, I don't think. Because the thing Vosh said was, somebody should bomb Israel. That's what Vosh said. Which I feel like that's going to be considered a less edgy take now that they're actively involved in a genocide in Gaza. Like, I feel like saying I want the genociders bombed is a much less edgy statement in the current year than it was then. Said no, he said nuke Israel. Oh, yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. That's definitely different. You're right. It is different in scale. It's not different in function, though. Axis is really, I thought it was for saying cracker. And once you go white, a trailer's in sight. Okay, now that I'm done with that version of racism, no, the first one was the Israel thing. That was when he got banned years ago. I think the cracker one might have happened too. I don't remember the details on that. I think a bunch of streamers got hit for like a week when that happened. It was weird. But you know, TLDR for all this is that it is very, very important for people to unionize, because our politicians are not advocating for us enough in their seats. They are not pushing monopolies to break apart. So, since we don't have a lot of options where that's concerned, we need to look for options elsewhere. And the options don't involve playing Player 2 in Mario Brothers. But they do include unionizing. They do include making sure that enough of us can get together so that we can strike against them whenever they try to do anything stupid. But Suzu says, it was literally a week of people saying, wait, I'm not allowed to say cracker, what do you mean? Bang. Justice says, and only 1/9 of the SCOTUS justices are pro-union? Yeah, we need more of them. Another interesting thing that Keo mentioned ages ago is that the Supreme, like, we see a lot of assassination attempts on presidents. And I don't know if it's that we just don't hear about them, but we don't see as many attempts on Supreme Court justices, despite the fact that presidencies end at a given date, and Supreme Court justices have their positions for life. It's a really interesting study in how optics affects how people operate, where if they desperately wanted things to change on the executive branch, the idea is that you would then attack the guy at the top. But when the conversation is about the judicial branch, the same mentality doesn't seem to be employed. But then again, it could just be that people aren't talking about that specifically. That could be the case. So I am working technically with partial information, though. But if my assumption on that is correct, in that we just don't really get a ton of those by comparison. So there were a few, I think Scalia, and I know Sotomayor, her son was assassinated. Right, it's not that there's a zero amount. We just generally don't hear about them as much as we do when it comes to the president. Not really. And I think that's interesting because it's supposed to be that Congress and the judicial branch and the executive branch all have equal power. So the president, the Supreme Court justices, and then the Senate and the House should all be equal wings. In practice, that's not really the case. Because you can't have the same amount of power in Congress when people are split down the middle, and we keep consolidating power into the presidency, and the president determines who gets to be in the judicial branch. But it is still interesting, the way people have responded there. K-Fox says, unitary executive theory. Hold on, I think I know what that is, but I am going to Google it to double check. Unitary executive theory. This is the constitutional theory holding that Article 2 vests all federal executive power in the president, granting them sole control over the executive branch and its agencies. It asserts the president has absolute authority to direct, supervise, and remove executive branch officials, challenging the independence of regulatory agencies. So, damn it, Suris, do I need to come on? No, you don't, because you'll take a 10-second explanation and turn it into a 10-minute explanation. And I don't have the time or spoons for that, and, yeah, there is no and. That's just kind of how it is. Jessica says, I successfully argued in middle school that SCOTUS was the most power because they say whatever is constitutional and what is not. Stagander says it's also because SCOTUS is media advertised as a group versus a single person. Right. So, like, when you look at the Senate and the House of Representatives, it's a group of ants all working towards sometimes a common goal, sometimes split goals. When it's the SCOTUS, it's a unit of people, so where do you go? I can see that argument. There is also the fact that because the president is one person, then we're going to see more instances of people trying to attack just the one person. K-Fox says Congress is also supposed to be able to impeach justices, but I don't think it's ever happened. Maybe we should actually... Okay, so question. For the impeachment of justices, do we need supermajority in the Senate to prosecute? Or is that just for the presidency? Because I feel like impeachment is more toy than tool right now. Because impeachment doesn't fucking mean anything if you can't convict. And you can't convict at least the president without a supermajority in the Senate. You only need half of the House to actually get an impeachment through. But you'd need 2/3 of the fucking Senate. Supermajority. Just as I think it's also 2/3 conviction. Let me check. It wouldn't surprise me. Like, it's one of the reasons that it has less teeth than it should. But at the same time, when both sides of the House and Congress are held by one side or the other, them having the ability to use teeth like that might be bad. I don't know. So I think impeachment conviction should be popular vote amongst the population. Fuck the Senate. I agree. But I know that the reason that that's not going to happen, as much as I want it to be the case, is the fact that the House of Representatives is supposed to be the popular vote, functionally. For those who might not know, historically, the reason we have the two sides of Congress is because the Senate was supposed to represent the aristocracy, functionally. The Senate is the people who have established power. And the House of Representatives was supposed to be the people who are there to represent the commoners. This is the reason why you can't filibuster in the House of Representatives, but you can do it in the Senate. The idea was that in the House of Representatives, a filibuster was a thing that you literally would not have time to do. But in the Senate, everybody there is a fucking multimillionaire. Who the fuck cares? They got plenty of time. I'm obviously glancing over a lot of the history as to the whys. But functionally, your Senate and your House of Representatives are supposed to represent two sides of the class coin. Unfortunately, they don't actually represent two sides of the class coin in practice. In practice, our reps just get as corrupt and as enriched as the senators do after a certain point. Said it was functionally written without parties. Oh yeah, the Constitution was. Will says, I honestly think it's better not to put the ability to vote into the hands of the popular vote because, well, we've seen how easily it is to manipulate the public. it is easy to manipulate the public. I think the problem would be solved with mandatory voting. And you know what's weird? We're so far away from the union thing, but I'm still recording, so I guess this just becomes a meandering video at this point. But I think if voting were mandatory, then it would be less of a problem. Because the thing that Republicans have been banking on for years, and even Mike Johnson kind of pointed out a little earlier this year, the thing that Republicans bank on for years is Democrats not voting. Democrats not voting is a giant issue. And the best tool in the pocket of any oligarch is telling the people that their actions don't matter. Let's go ahead and do Pascal's wager for it. If the oligarchs are lying to you about your votes, your actions not mattering, then engaging in those actions can directly undermine their power. If they are lying to you and you don't do any actions, their power never gets undermined. If they are not lying to you and you engage in actions against them, voting being the most basic one again, then nothing happens. And then if you do nothing, nothing happens. There is only one fucking quadrant in all of this where your actions have matter or merit. And it is the one where oligarchs who lie are lying to you and you actually take actions against them, like voting or organizing a union or, primarying candidates that will rip away their money. Oligarchs depend on you being complacent. They rely on you being despondent and feeling like you can't do anything to change the system that you're in. If they are right, then it doesn't hurt to take action. It just doesn't help either. If they are wrong, taking action undermines them. And not taking action only helps them. I'm gonna be honest, I know which quadrant of that wager that I prefer. And I think I'm going to use this quadrant theory for decision shit a little more often in videos going forward, because it's come up twice now. And I think it's going to be a really, really useful tool going forward. I don't think it works really well for religion, though. People who use Pascal's wager to argue the existence of God are really weird. Because, that needle doesn't change no matter what. And a god will know if you're using Pascal's wager to convince yourself they exist, and therefore they'll know that you're only using it as a form of self-protection, and therefore they know that you don't actually believe what you're saying. Ansela says, take the bus that is at least headed in the right direction. It won't get you all the way, but there's a start. Exactly. Exactly. This is why everybody who comes into my chat and just is a doomer about politics, I think is a useless person. Personally. Yeah, it's just me. Anyway, to bring everything full circle, the thing that will ultimately undermine any oligarch, and an oligarch being people who have sway over the United States government but do it from the background, like corporate lobbyists, any oligarch is going to be afraid of collective action against them. Vigilante action is also a thing that's proven effective, at least for a few months, but collective action is a thing that I can actually advocate for. They are scared of it. If they weren't scared of it, they wouldn't engage in union busting. But they do, so they are scared. Give them a reason to be scared. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitt, I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.